Hi there, it's time to get up to scratch. Today, we're going to look at the sensing blocks, the light blue blocks over here. These blocks allow the user to interact with your Scratch program, and sometimes they even let sprites interact with each other. They allow for various inputs into your programs and thus give the user a more interesting experience. I'm going to explain these a bit out of order though. Let's begin. The first block I'm going to explain is the ask what's your name and wait. And actually, we're going to use this answer block as well to demonstrate something that I've been kind of hinting at for a few videos now, but it's going to be a lot better with this example. I'm going to, as usual, start with A when the green flag is clicked, and that's going to be the beginning of my program. And I'm also going to use a couple of these say hello for 2 seconds blocks. And instead of having it say hello for 2 seconds, I'm going to use this block, and you notice it's almost exactly the same size. So the answer block goes in there. So let's see what happens when I do this. So the cat has asked, what's your name? And now you see this box down below. So I'm going to type in my name and let's see what happens. Hello, Michael. So for now, we can only really put the answer they put in there. I'm going to show you in the operators video how you can actually combine and customize the things that your entries say. And when we use variables, we can actually use multiple one of these. So ask and answer is a really good way to get some sort of written variable or written kind of entry input into your program. Now remember in our control video, we had talked about these diamond shaped ones. So we use the if something is happening then, and I'm going to use this forever block because that's going to make this a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to go back to the sensing. So if we are touching, if the sprite is touching the mouse pointer, so this program is going to forever check if this condition is met, and we're seeing if it's touching the mouse pointer. Our other options are touching the edge. So I'm going to make it say if it is touching the mouse pointer, it works. And so I press the start, and you can see as I touch the cat, it is continually saying it works, it works, it works, it works. And I'll stop that because that could go on and on and on. Now, that could also be touching the edge. Now, this might be something you want to do, move 10 steps. So let's see. And then you see it moves the 10 steps. And it's going to keep on doing that because it is continuing to try and move, but the program won't let it actually go off of the stage. Let's reset the cat to the middle, so 0, 0. And let's look at some of the other sensing blocks. So if it is touching a certain color, now that color is a default color, but if you tap on that, it gives you a bunch of different options. So you can change the color any which way you like. And you'll notice that as you increase the brightness, you see more, but it's actually, I'll bring another sprite in here to prove a point. So let's pick something really simple. So this orange ball here. And now that that is on there, we'll go back to the cat sprite, and I'm going to move the ball here. And when I do pick my color, I can use this color picker tool, which will allow me to go and pick a color on the ball. I probably should have picked something that wasn't a gradient. So I've got that color now. And again, let's see what happens if I move my cat towards there. And I'm going to change that to 1 second so it's not for so long. And now you'll see it's continuing to say that. And because it's saying it works, it's waiting a whole second. Every time it's not touching it, it will go a lot quicker. So see how that worked. So this could be good when you're having sprites touch a barrier or something, so that if it's touching a barrier, then it doesn't move, or if it's touching a barrier, it does move. The next one is if a specific color is touching another specific color. So let's drag that out there and let's try, actually, if we'll use the color picker and we'll pick that color and we will pick the white of the cat. So let's go right to the white of its eyes and see how that goes. So you see how it went quicker because there was less things. So your sprite might have different colors on in its design, and you might only want to use that sporadically. This should be an interesting one, is that it's not a diamond one, but we could have forever saying the distance to the mouse pointer. So see how if I move the mouse pointer now, and as I move the cat, it's going to be 0. This might not really work for the 1 second, say. This might be a very good example of when you would use the say block without the wait time. So see, now it updates automatically. And we can actually find the center of the cat. Maybe not. So that will give you a value. You can also plug that into other things. When we talk about the operators, that might be a very useful tool to use. We've already talked about the ask and wait. These next ones are probably very helpful. So when the space key is pressed, or when any key is pressed, it can get something to do something. So this is very similar to the event block that we had before up here when the space key is pressed. This might be something different though, because you might want it to execute some code first and then wait until something happens. So you might actually, instead of doing a forever loop, you could do wait until for this example. So if I start, I'll take out the forever loop, put that, I'm going to delete this ball because I don't think we need it right now, and wait until the space key is pressed and then say hello. So once I start, nothing is happening, nothing is happening. I press the space key and it says hello. Now, if I press the space key again, the program has already run. So we could put a control block around that forever to keep it going over and over. Every time I press the space key, it will say hello for 2 seconds. So notice those subtle differences in how we use these. I know this isn't a video about the control blocks, but this is probably teaching you quite a bit about how they work. Same thing if the mouse is down. So I press that button and I press the mouse button. It's got to be in the area, not in the coding area. So every time I press the mouse button, it will say hello. Let's look at these two values here, which are essentially the same, the mouse X and the mouse Y, and they're going to give you values. So I'll get rid of those again, and we'll just have a look. Now, we don't want to say hello for 2 seconds. We want just to say hello, and I'm going to do the X value. So you notice the X, so when I go up or down, if I go up in a straight line, it doesn't really change that much, but when I go left or right, it changes the X value, and same with the mouse Y. So now, so going up and down changes it, and going side to side keeps it relatively the same, but I can't keep a straight line apparently. This next block, the set drag mode to draggable or not draggable, doesn't necessarily seem to have an effect when you're playing with the stage. So right now I can drag the cat around anywhere I want. And when I click it to not draggable and I press the green button, I can still do that. But what's interesting is, let's set it to draggable, and I'm going to go on the C project page. So if you've never been here before, it's a lot of basic what other people can see. So when I play the game or play the program, I can move the cat around. Now, if I go back and I change that to not draggable, and I go see project page, and then I try to drag the cat, I can't. So just because you can drag it when you're making your program doesn't mean that the users will be able to when they are. So if you don't want something moved, you probably can set that to not draggable. These next few blocks, again, are very similar to the other blocks that we talked about. So being able to use these forever blocks and the say block is going to help us understand what they're actually telling us. And these are basically giving us numbers. So it's saying the loudness. And when I talk loudly, you can see the number going up. If I talk really quietly, the number isn't very high. So this just kind of gives you a number for the loudness that's coming into the speaker. So you need a microphone for this to work. Same thing with the timer. So the timer basically starts at 0 and goes as your program is running. Now you notice it's not super even, but that could be useful to know when something is happening. So this isn't like a timer that you make for a game, although you can make those on Scratch. This is timing your program. Now, an interesting thing is there's also a button there that will reset the timer. So perhaps there's something that happens and you want a race to be had. You can have the timer go. And a really interesting thing is you also can see what these actually are. So you can put those, they're basically variables, and these little tick boxes on the side will show you what they are. So if you're running a game, you can actually have the timer being shown there and have it reset at a certain point. That's going to just make it 0 all the time. So the backdrop number of stage. So it'll tell us the backdrop. We've only got one backdrop, but we've also got the backdrop name. So it can tell us the backdrop name. It could tell us the volume that we are set at. And it could, what's my variable? Well, my variable is a variable that doesn't really exist. It might be useful for something. Same thing for this, the current year. So it is 2024, but it can also tell us the current month, which is January. It's the 22nd of January when I'm making this. It could tell me that that is a Monday. So I guess it starts on a Sunday. It could tell me the hour, which is 2 o'clock. It could tell me the minute, which is 8. And it could tell me the seconds, which will be slowly ticking up as I go on. That might be very useful if you're trying to make a program that interacts with something to do with the time. Another thing it can do, it can tell us the days since 2000. So it actually has a half or 0.05 day there. So 8,787 days since 2000. So you can probably use that in calculations. I've seen on some online discussion groups that this is actually quite a useful block. And the last one is you can actually have someone's username show up there. You might not really use some of these blocks, but they are there if you need them. They can give you some information that you can play around with, and that when we talk about operators next, that they can be manipulated with. So in the next video, I'll show you how we play around with some of those things. That's all the sensing blocks. They may not be the most used blocks, but they can provide some really interesting functions for programs you make and allow the user to input data. They also provide some information that you can use when you're using operator blocks. By now, you should have sound knowledge of most of the Scratch blocks. Next up, you should watch the video on operator blocks and then variables. You're truly going to become a master at Scratch. Happy programming! Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.